growing up, were you exposed to a lot of film, a lot of arts?
Film, not particularly. I was never allowed to see anything that wasn't G-rated or Disney and so forth. And I went to movies like any other kid. Liked movies, but mainly I watched a lot of TV.
So, when did you feel you could possibly become a filmmaker? At what point was that a possibility for you?
Not until film school, many years later. That's when I actually started to make films, and having failed at so many other endeavors, I recognized immediately that things were clicking with the shorts that I was making in film school. This was graduate school, so I wasn't a kid anymore. And that's what gave me, I think, a certain confidence to say that maybe I can do this.
I read that you went to Yale for English and then spent some time at NYU. Was it more the latter period that informed your experience as a filmmaker rather than your undergraduate?
Well, I didn't do anything with film in college. I left after college. In fact, I thought I'd never go back to school again. I wasn't so happy as an undergraduate. And I lived for almost 2 years in Los Angeles. I didn't think I'd be happy there, and I wasn't. And I thought about film school as a kind of solution of sorts, because I wanted to live in New York, and it was really NYU or no place, because I didn't want to go to Columbia. That was uptown. I wanted to be in the Village. So I called. I said, "What's the deadline?" They said, "Today." And at the time, it wasn't so competitive. The check cleared, you were in.
And I read that you had the process of making your first film, Fear, Anxiety, and Depression, actually soured you on the process of filmmaking a little bit. Could you describe what was different when you were making that film as opposed to your future films that you seem to?
It was a very unhappy experience. It was demoralizing, humiliating. I I was young, not so young, but young, and foolish, and I think it's not so much that it soured me; it just embarrassed me, and it was a kind of ill-conceived and ill-begotten film that I didn't want finished and never mind released. So somehow I recovered, and I think probably because I ultimately didn't want that first film to have the last word, and so I suppose that was the incentive to try and make another film.
So then what brought you to Dollhouse? What inspired you to tell that story?
Well, I actually had written that even before I finished making that first film, because it was it was to redeem myself from the horror of that experience, and then I put it aside and didn't do anything. I needed to. I'd had too much. My life, has never been a smooth line. When I went to film school, I was kind of the it kid, because my films were very, very well received, and I had offers from 3 picture deals from Fox and Columbia, fighting to work with me, and it was too much, and I didn't have much sympathy from any of my classmates. It was the unhappiest period of my life, and so it in some sense was perhaps inevitable that I would have the catastrophe that I had when I made this film. Um, and it in some sense freed me to pursue the kind of filmmaking that that made me want to be a filmmaker in the first place.
You hear a lot of young writers, young directors talking about a lack of artistic freedom, and you've actually never really seemed to have been bogged down by ideas that aren't from you. Is there a certain quality that lets you make the kinds of films that you want to make?
I don't know. I just write a script, and I write what I want to write. I don't know why. If you're, I mean, especially when you're young, you have to take advantage of the sense of possibility. You're only limited by your imagination, and so I just write what I want to write, and that's what I pursue.
So, Welcome to the Dollhouse received the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance. What was that experience like?
That was nice. I mean that particularly having had such a demoralizing experience before with
Right.
and not having the creative autonomy and so forth either. It was very much relished, and it changed my life. It was actually at Toronto that it first premiered in '95, a few months before Sundance, where it got anointed. But it just opened so many doors, and I suppose because it opened so many doors that could have led to such a profitable career, that's why I wrote Happiness, because I knew I wanted to take advantage of that success. That movie couldn't be made without having had a certain amount of success, and I knew that almost all these doors would close after they read the script, and so almost all did, but one did stay open, and that's how I got to make the movie.